So I often think about how the role that you're in, the simple role, the position that you're in the world, actually drives a lot of behavior, and it's less the human being that's actually there. And I think about the sort of challenge that it is, right? So we often are mad or angry at um, politicians, for example. But if we were to replace that politician with anybody, and it doesn't matter who it is, people would be upset with that individual. Some group would be upset with that individual. And I think about how challenging that actually is on that particular person. Now, you might be thinking, well, they signed up for the job, but that doesn't make it any less challenging and any less um, difficult for them in the sense that they are very much human beings. Like, we can't deny that, right? We often think of these people that are in these roles, like politicians, for example, is inhuman. Um, and it's I think about that. I think if we treated people empathetically with respect, I think we'd have much different discussions in this world. Things that would feel a lot differently if we just simply empathize with somebody that was in a certain position. Now, I'm not suggesting that all politicians and all people in certain roles are doing a good job. I'm not suggesting that some of them are just not good people. What I'm suggesting is that there's a large chunk of what happens when somebody's in a certain role where they have to perform certain duties because of that particular role. And the challenge is figuring out, like, how much were they actually responsible, or how much did they actually lead to something happening. And often it's not as much as you think it is. And the challenge when we look at this, when we sort of think about it, is how do I relate to other people in a humanistic manner, right? And think about, like, let's if we were to start the conversation with that it's challenging and you're kind of going along with the ride in the same sort of way, or you've been there, or you know I think about how the world would just be a lot different if we were more empathetic and we were thinking about other people's positions, where I think we would try to actually connect with people in different ways. And so me personally, I really struggle with that. That's like super hard for me to sort of resonate with other people. But the thing is the fact that I'm saying this, the fact that I'm being open about this is probably more than what other people actually do, right? Like, they don't even sort of think about this, that we should be starting at the position of, like, okay, what is this like in this circumstance and how to actually deal with it. And, for me, I'm always second guessing myself and thinking, and I guess that's the challenge with it, is that you don't just kind of execute with what you think is right. You are at a position where you're overthinking some things, right? And that's on the opposite side of the sort of empathetic side, right? But I think if we had these conversations where we're just cognizant a little bit more, like just thinking a little bit more about other people despite their roles and what they're going through. I think about, like, something like a teacher, for example, in the classroom. Um, I am way less likely to, um, come down hard on teachers anymore, simply because it's like you don't know what the right choice is, right? If you push people, it's good. It helps them in a lot of ways, like push them to the sort of best of abilities. But then, if you don't push them in the long run, it's not nearly as sort of beneficial. But people are, less, they're more happy with the situation, right? And this is the sort of difficulty with a lot of these things is what does it actually feel to go through these things, right? Like, or I think about um, somebody that's serving me food at a McDonald's or a restaurant. What is their life actually like? What are they going through? What's the end result? I know that they're supposed to be happy because they're front end staff and smiley, but man, what is their life actually really like? And what are they going through? It's a lot different than thinking of the sort of simply just a front end or what you see. Um, I just, I think we need to, part of being um, a leader in society, and I believe everybody's a leader in society. Everybody can take a role where they stand up and do positive things. Part of doing that is thinking about how other people feel and what they're going through and just being empathetic, right? Like I think about doctors that have good bedside manner. What does that mean to have good bedside manner? Well, that means that they might stop and talk to somebody, but then here's the challenge with that, right? Is that often those doctors that don't stop and talk to people is because somebody has yelled at them in the past or, went too aggressive on them. And so now they're afraid to do that. And it's the sort of challenge with that is how do you deal with it? How do you make sense of it? And I don't know what the right answer is. I think it's working through some of these things and finding the right combination of you know how do you resonate with other people and how do you don't. And there's a right there's kind of a sweet spot, um, and you have to think about that. You can't end up being absolutely empathetic all the time where you can't get anything done and you're overthinking everything. And then you have the risk of somebody doing something not great to you. But then on the other side, you have to think about other people and go through what their experiences are. So it's a challenge, is what I'm saying. Is that I think the world would be a lot different if we stopped and paused and thought about things a little bit and said, well, I don't know if I should send that email. I don't know if I should do this because you're thinking about them. Or how can I phrase it so that they're not going to necessarily be upset? Um, that's what we often have to go through. All right.